Dragon Age VEILGUARD has been out a while, and I've played it through twice to tell you, is the game good? I have the platinum on it. I've done half of the origins, like I've started 3 different origins, tried every class, not every subclass, that would have taken too much time. And I just wanted to ask, is this a good game? Or is it a bad game? Is it just a good game, but a bad Dragon Age game? Or is it somewhere in between? And we'll figure it out together. So, let's start with the good things. Dragon Age VEILGUARD has a really good art style. At least I really like it. I can see why you wouldn't like it. It's a bit cartoony, but I think it fits. The colors just somehow meld together really well. None of the Dragon Age games really had a unified art style, so I really didn't mind it, and I really grew to like it. I do have some nitpicks, like some of the things that should have been a bit more dark were a bit too colorful, but overall I think it was a positive. Next is the combat. The combat is great. Every single one of the characters I played through, not even played through, I played 5 hours of Rogue. That was really fun too, it was my last one. But Warrior and Mage, I played through the whole game with them, Reaper and Deathcaller, and those were really great and fun to play through this. The action is phenomenal. There are some downsides too. Some parts of the combat start to feel a bit samey if you have found what you want to do. You can, of course, change it up. There are a lot of ways you can kill enemies. You can do primers, or you can use some of the special effects like necrosis and some of the special weapons that have different kinds of specialties in them. Like, one of them is that every stack of necrosis that I do causes 100 damage and explodes, but it doesn't stack. Things like that. That's one of them I had for my Warrior. I really think that Reaper was a bit too reliant on the shield throw. I think it was fun to throw the shield, do charge attacks for the shield, but I really didn't like that you had to throw the shield quite often. But otherwise I really enjoyed Warrior. As for Mage, I really didn't like the staff, like at all. I really didn't like the staff as a Mage, so I only used Dagger and Orb, and I really liked that. And I'm really sad that I didn't start out as a Rogue, because I thought that that might have been the best one out of all 3 of them, like gameplay wise. It feels like a true action RPG as a Rogue. Not even an action RPG, it feels more like an action game when you play as a Rogue. But when I've played through 2 full playthroughs, I just didn't have to hard to play through it again, even though I really loved the combat. 3 times, like, I don't know, 30 hours, 40 hours, at least. No. Now let's get into the meat of it. I can't say this is a good thing, but let's talk about the characters, the dialogue, and the story, which is a mix of some good, some okay, and some really bad things. There are 2 characters that really stood out to me that I liked: Emmerich and Davrin. Davrin because he's a Grey Warden, and I think I might be biased because of that. I think he pulled it off well, the way a Grey Warden would act in these scenes. And Emmerich, I played my first playthrough was as a Moon Watcher, and somehow the way Moon Watcher Rook and Emmerich interact with each other is really good, and Emmerich's story and the things that happened in the Necropolis are elevated. It just feels so much more natural when your character actually interacts with it and kind of knows about it. And it doesn't happen from any of the other origins that I've seen. My Mage was a Grey Warden, but that did not feel as fulfilling as the Moon Watcher throughout the whole game. It was better than the Andevan Crow Rogue I did, but it still didn't hold a candle, in my opinion, of the way it felt like my character was a character. My Rook was a character in the world. And that's why I like Emmerich the most. But I really didn't dislike any of the characters, you know? I really thought I was gonna hate Bellara after her introduction, but I didn't. I was kinda meh on her. Well, not meh. Let's say I was warming up to her, but her story didn't give me enough for me to actually like her. Nev was good. Her story was good. I didn't love her, but she wasn't meh. The only thing I think that made it so I didn't like her was her voice acting. I felt that some parts were a bit too emotionless, and I think it's not because of the voice actress, because in other parts she does really well with her tone and emotion showing through her voice. But then there are parts in her companion quest where there should be some emotion, but somehow it fell a bit flat. I think it was a direction thing or a time thing, I don't know which, but I found that a bit annoying. But I can say overall the voice acting was fine and I liked her. She's my third favorite character, but it's nowhere near the other two. Then there's Harding and Lucanus, who I think both drew the short end of the stick. I don't know why, I just don't feel like they're full characters. I liked Harding more in Inquisition, and she was in it a much shorter time. I got more of her character in that than I did on this. I feel like her story was incomplete, and I think the same goes for Lucanus. I think there wasn't enough of them in it. Their personalities really didn't shine through at all, and I think if they had a bit more to do and a bit more character to them, I could have really enjoyed both of them at least as much as Nev, because her story was complete. Theirs was incomplete, I feel like. I don't know if it's just me, but I really feel there was something missing on them. Then there's Tash, a character who I really did not like at the beginning, and by the end I was like, okay, I see what they were trying to do here. But the problem with Tash is the problem with the game itself. Tash's arc is fine. It's what happens in the arc that's not fine. The dialogue in it is knockoff Marvel dialogue, and that's really not fun. It's really annoying, and the way they try to tell Tash's story is bad. Through their companion quest, Tash becomes non-binary, but the way they do it is really on the nose and really annoying. There's no subtext here, none whatsoever. There's just text, and they take the text and beat you over the head with it. I really didn't like the way they did it, and they make Tash really unlikable from the beginning. When you first meet Tash, you go and help them with a dragon hunt, and through it, your character realizes that Tash uses Qun armbands, but it's not part of the Qun, and they ask about them. I can't remember what they ask, but do you know what Tash says? You don't get to tell me who I am. And I was like, whoa, why are you such an asshole about that? It was just a normal question, like, what? Why? And at that point I didn't know they are non-binary throughout the story. I didn't know about them at all before I started the game, and later on I realized what they were trying to do there. They don't like being told what they are. It came through as a real asshole move, and I really disliked them from that point on. There's this one scene where Tash kind of attacks Nev for Nev liking to wear feminine clothes and likes being a woman, and it made me really hate Tash more. That's what's wrong with the writing. They were trying to convey that Tash doesn't like being a woman and thinks no one likes being a woman. But it's so on the nose and so badly written that it really just ruins the character for me, you know? And that's a big problem throughout the story. There are just some things that are so on the nose and written so oddly and so in your face that it's annoying. It's really poorly written at points. 10% of all the dialogue is really bad. 5% of it is good, and the rest of it is okay. Bad dialogue shines through more than good dialogue. You feel it and you see it and you're like, what the fuck is this? Like, what? Why would you do it like this? And the story itself is okay, but the dialogue in it just doesn't work. It's too modern. If this dialogue was in a Mass Effect game, I would still say it feels out of place. Because it's like someone was writing how a 15-year-old talks, or how they think a 15-year-old talks. And that's not a good thing. It really just makes it worse. And the story itself, I think there were not enough consequences in it. There was not enough reactivity in it. There are 3 choices throughout the game that I think, or throughout the main story, that have any impact on it. One of them really doesn't have any impact, and two of them have impact, but I don't think it's enough. The first one has the most impact. It just changes things throughout the story and how things are going to go. It has some gameplay consequences, and I really thought there would be more of those, but there aren't. The second one has some consequences, and they might be more personal consequences than story consequences. And the third one has no consequences whatsoever. You think there will be. One of your party members is going to get kidnapped because of a choice you make, but by the end of it, they're fine. It doesn't seem like they're fine near the end, but they're fine. And that's a big problem. I think if they make a sequel, some of the choices you do make throughout the story might pay out, but only one of the companion quests I feel like has some real consequences. And that's Emmerich's. Like I said before, Emmerich feels like the most complete character and the most fun, but the other choices you make with your companions might have some effect if a sequel was ever made, but they're not here now. And that's a big problem because I really feel like this game doesn't feel like a Dragon Age game. It is a good action RPG, but it's really not a good Dragon Age game. If I would give it a score, I would give it a 8 out of 10 as a game, but as a Dragon Age game, it'd be a 5. Because I don't feel like there's enough here of what I love about those games to make it feel like a Dragon Age game. And if this is your first Dragon Age game, I can say you're gonna love it. But if this is like your fourth one, I can say that there's gonna be things you really hate about this, but I still recommend you play it. There are some story stuff that happens that are really out there. And then there are some choices with some of my favorite characters of all time that I really didn't agree with, and I saw coming a miles away, but I really still dislike them. And a big problem that I have with this game, that you might have too, I really didn't care about Solus, and that might be a big problem for you too. But overall, I can say if you want to play an action game, play through it. I would recommend a Rogue, because I really think that's the most fun. And if I hadn't played it through twice before it, I might have played through as a Rogue. It's the most reactive one. You have only one weapon, or kind of two. You have ranged weapon, and you have two swords, a rapier and a sword that you wield, but you can't switch between them. And it's the most complex of what I saw through those. I think that's kind of it for me. I really don't have much else to talk about this game. I just wanted to talk about it. And if you like this video, please leave a like and subscribe for more videos like this. And do you like this kind of video where I just talk? This wasn't scripted at all. I just kept talking and talking and talking until I had the video. The other one was more scripted. So tell me what you would prefer. Do you want me to just rant on and on about my games? These games? If you want me to be a bit more on rails, I could do that too. But yeah, thank you. Bye bye.